Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Education, Secret Board of Education meeting for June. Glad to see so many faces here tonight. Packed house, standing room on, looks great. And we have an agenda to look at, to go through here, so we need to get started. And it is 6 p.m. when we came in. And again, welcome. First item is approval of agenda. Recommended action is to approve the agenda as presented.
This is Jen Hopkins. I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Jeff Finn's now second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right, let's stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take a moment of time. Thank you. Maybe Steve. Item number 4 is approval of minutes. 401 is the minutes for the May 15th board meeting. All members were present, so all may vote. Recommended action is to approve the minutes of 5/15/23 board public meeting.
Marcus Rabb, I move to approve the minutes in 5/15/23 board public meeting. Jeff Finn's my second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of 5/15/23 board public meeting. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item 5 is public participation. I've been informed that there was no forms received, so we will move on to reports and presentation. 6.01 is awards and presentations, and I will turn the floor over to Dr. Nichols.
Thank you. Good evening. Tonight, to start off our awards, I would actually like to recognize our board president, Mr. David Tall, for 10 years of service on the Seton School Board. So let's give him a round of applause. I'm going to start with this plaque for your years of service, but also just to say some words about Mr. Toll. I became superintendent January of 2020, and I think we all know what happened in March. That's when COVID shutdown came. So an extremely stressful time to be in education or in the world at that time. So we were forced to, the key word was pivot at that time and figure out what we were going to do with educating students. And we shut down school, and having to navigate that was very hard. And we had calls at the health department, the state department, the governor. And as we came through that, I think we spoke weekly and sometimes, several times a day.
Yeah, sometimes.
And he was always someone I could count on, very clear, level head. Again, a very stressful time. And then we fast forward to that next year when, as a district, we really made a commitment to try to get our doors back open. We were the first public school in the state to open our doors for students. And that looked, in that hybrid formation or hybrid situation with mass, et cetera. And it wasn't easy because everybody was nervous. And one thing I can say about Mr. Toll was he always had the safety of the students and staff and community in mind. That's what he kept asking me over and over. Will we be safe? Is this the best thing for our students? I think he actually asked for a walkthrough of the health department to come through, and we walked our buildings with our maintenance team with some of the sprayers. So he really was always engaged in making sure we did the right thing. And just when you're around someone for the amount of years that you gave service to the school district, it's really impressive. So thank you. Mr. John Marinucci, the executive director of the SBA, to come and say a few words as well, because Mr. Toll, not only being a major force here at the local level, he was also a major force at the state level. So I know that you've been a part of working with him.
Thank you. My name is John Marinucci. I'm the executive director of the Delaware School Boards Association for, I don't know, about 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks. I am retiring again. But when I came to the School Board Association, there were several people that stood out very quickly as folks that could be relied upon. Dave Toll was one of them. Mr. Toll was somebody that I could always count on for information, to assist in difficult situations. Mr. Toll served the Seaford School Board on the DSBA Board of Directors for 10 years. He was involved with the School Board Association longer than I was. I've been there 7 years, and Mr. Toll was there longer before me, actually. He has served as a delegate to the National School Board Association's Delegate Assembly on behalf of Delaware, and he's always just been someone who we can rely on. He's been the treasurer of the School Board Association. He's also been the legislative committee chair. So we, the School Board Association, thank you for all you've done. And I think we need to replace this with Mr. David Toll, in appreciation of your dedicated service to the DSBA. And that will be your gavel for the evening, and that's yours.
Mr. Toll, it's going to be wow. Yep.
Should I bring this to you?
Bring your hand.
Bring it up.
You don't have to worry. Just ahead.
You would do it. We were just talking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Yeah, I get it. He actually did come to work all the time. He said it that bad.
Oh, no, thank
At this time, I would actually like to turn it over to Mr. Quillen. I know we have some athlete awards. I'm not sure if we had any able to make it tonight, but I'd still like to recognize them. Absolutely.
This was a tough evening. We've had a lot of summer stuff going on with 7-on-7. Soccer's playing tonight, basketball's playing tonight, swimming tonight. Tracks, they're out in Georgia. So we've got a lot of kids doing a lot of things over the summer. So I want to share with everyone some accolades that happened in the wintertime, as well as the spring, as well as some things to look forward to. First of all, in the wintertime, we had boys basketball with Kashmir Wise, Brett Ricketts, and Mikhail Hubbard all being all conference. Our girls basketball program had Amara Tagle and Jordan Evans. Our swimming program had Alex Anderson. Our boys swimming had Aiden Elliott, and Brett Ricketts was actually named All-State for multiple years. So he's actually heading to the Kutztown here, coming up in the fall for basketball. Very exciting for our winter athletes. Our spring athletes, some great stuff going on as well. We'll start off with track. Mike Trammell, Tyrese Seymour, Alex Jean, Denzel Alterner. Trayvon Paulson is the first all-conference high jumper we've had in years. And it's just a great athletic, just a great showing for him. And of course, Jazante Levin was all out, all conference, all state, and actually broke the state record for the 200 meter. He just beat his, actually just this past Saturday, he put together a PR for his 200 meter. And I just completed the application for the Gatorade Player of the Year for Jazante. We should know here within a week or so for that. So that's an exciting news for him. He's out in Georgia running right now. For our baseball program, just a great year. Best baseball program, best record since 2007 with an 11-7 record this year for our baseball program. Sean Martinez, Aaron Brittingham, and James Nisley. Our soccer program, Karina Gomez Gaspar. Our softball with Cameron Knowles, Sage Larimore, Adriana Heck, Shane Cooper, and Aaliyah Walker. And we actually have a new award this year called the Triple Threat Award. And it's an award we went ahead and got framed our school letter. Inside of it says Seaford High School Triple Threat Award, Building Champions for Life. It's for those athletes and coaches that participate in 3 varsity sports, which is extremely difficult to do, both academically, socially, and athletically. I'm gonna read you those names because I think they're really special. It's really tough to be a 3-sport athlete these days, which, we're looking to get those 3-sport athletes out there. On our female side, we had Jordan Evans, Kaylee Layton, and Alex Anderson. And then for our males, we had Khalil Kilgo, Dominic Breitenbach, Bennett Breitenbach, Luke Metzger, Sam Dorvadaire, and Bensley St. Jean. And then as a former 3-sport head coach myself for almost 25 years, we're celebrating Joe Pauline and Jamal Alston for coaching 3 varsity sports for the year, which is very difficult as well. Both still single-minded by that, so don't smile a little bit, but just a great award for all those student athletes. I'll make sure those athletes get these awards. I just want to make sure we celebrate them for athletics this year. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Our next set of awards, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Carvajal Hickman.
Yes. Chandra was first.
You guys can work that out.
No, that's fantastic because we're going to save the best for last. So I'm going to start off with our middle school teacher, JDG Teacher of the Year. And her name is Erica Morton. And this is really exciting because having JDG at our middle school is a relatively new thing in Seaford. And Seaford was one of the first school districts that decided to move forward and pilot it so that we have a really nice pathway from our middle school to our high school so that our students have exposure to all of the different jobs that are available in Delaware. So I'd like to call you up and recognize you for the good work that you do and coming to Seaford Middle School and working with our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna come right over here.
Okay. Thank you.
So the next round of students that we'd like to recognize are also have to do with our career and technical programs. We have first place winners for the Delaware Career Association Middle School Chapter of the Year, first place for community service projects. And we have several students who are recipients of that award. It was a team. So I'm going to read everybody's name and then we'll call forward the 3 students who were able to make it here tonight. So the first student was Shemika Joseph, Jenna Chambers, Cameron Vonville, Adriana West, Hayden Shora, and Millard Despinas. So the 3 students who are here are Jenna, Cameron, and Millard.
Come on up.
Jenna, Cameron, and Mark. Miller.
You guys come on over.
I even asked how to.
Congratulations.
Yes, so I'm also gonna ask, their teacher of the year to come up and be photographed with them, if that's okay. Because he was part of this team in organizing all of their amazing work.
Yeah.
You got taller.
We good?
Yeah, it's just that. Right, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
And for our last award tonight. Ms. Chandra Phillips.
Good evening. Good evening. Let me first apologize for the summer attire, you clean up better than this. I thought I was just showing up in support, not realizing I was going to actually present, but it's an honor to present. The Carson Scholars Fund is awards $1,000. College scholarship to students in grades 4 through 11 who excel academically and are dedicated to serving their communities. The Gia was nominated by her teacher, who is here tonight. Mrs. Mears, now Mrs. Jones, if you would come up too. We're going to present the Carson Scholar Fund Award to Ms. Gia Forston.
Congratulations.
Right, Ian? 1, 2.
Thank you.
Yep, that's it.
Again, thank you to all that were involved in those awards and presentations. Thank you so much for all of you for our district and supporting us. Thank you. Great job. All right, we'll move on to 6.02, superintendent communications, and I will turn it over to Dr. Newton. At this moment, if there's anybody that does not want to stay, you may exit the car.
Thank you. Very nice. Thank you.
I don't know if you're please stay.
And the president, what do you have?
I'm a high rated.
We're joking the hall. We didn't have to sit. We're about to go this one.
Yeah.
Sign.
One name.
Okay, Dr. Nichols, all yours.
Okay, good evening again. Just a few things, just a few updates. I received an email from, the Starfish Society. And the Starfish organization wants to thank, you, and this went to, Eric Lott, Anthony Earl, myself, for the outstanding cadets that helped at the Little Miss Secret pageant. A little bit back. These young cadets went above and beyond. They listened, responded, and given instruction. They were courteous, kind, and simple. These cadets could not have behaved any better. What a great example they set for the program. So I did want to share that with the And also, you've had a lot to celebrate in the last month. And I really want to thank the high school and the staff there for putting on a great graduation. I want to congratulate our graduates again. I also want to thank the high school for a great senior awards night. It's always great to see students receiving scholarships and awards. Also, the middle school put on their great ceremony at the high school, so another great evening of celebration. Mr. Cameron, it was last Wednesday, Mr. Cameron and your team put on a job fair, the first one we had before, right, in the district?
Yes, sir.
And if I'm correct, there were 40 individuals came through.
Yes, close. In between 40 and 50.
Oh, 50.
Yes.
About 50
I'm not need to present now later, so we're good.
So that was, I know that took a lot of work and Mr. Cameron will go into more detail, but it was really, it's a great effort to fill some of our hard to find positions across the district. And last Friday, many of us were at the Seaford Library for the summer reading kickoff. And frozen farmers will say our privilege of grilling some hamburgers and hot dogs, which was fun. Secretary of Education came to the event as well. So that was another good day for our community. Also want to let the board know that Blades Elementary received a grant from Highmark for $20,000 for books. So that was, really positive. We were really excited about that. And the last thing I have is that summer hours have started. So the office is still open from 8 to 4, but you'll see staff here at 7, many leaving around 5, etc. Run different, shifts, but just let you know, the summer hours have started and our office hours are 8 to 4, Monday through Thursday. And that's what I have.
All right, thank you, sir. Moving on, board communications. I have a couple of things that I need to bring up to the board, a couple of meetings that I've attended on DSBA. The first one I'd like to report on is the legislative committee meeting that was held on May the 31st of 2023. That meeting minutes from the April 26th legislative committee were reviewed and had been previously approved by the board of directors on May the 3rd. The next thing, the previously authorized legislation position on legislation were briefly reviewed and updated on the status of those bills were provided at the meeting. And then the committee reviewed current legislation with positions on House bills approved as follows. Now, the list is not quite as long as it was last month when I gave this report, but there still are a number of bills that I need to bring to your attention. The first one is House Substitute 1 to House Bill 66. House Bill 66, that's an act to amend Title 14 of the Delaware Code relating to Delaware public education profiles. The committee's position previously, as I reported last month, was deferred on House Bill 66. House Substitute 1 was a rework of the bill and significantly improved the bill. The committee voted for a position of support for House Substitution 1 to House Bill 66. As I said, it was reworked, the original bill by DSBA, DSA, and the Department of Ed. A much improved bill from what it was originally. So we supported that, or we will support that. The next bill is House Bill 137. This is an act to amend Title 14 of the Delaware Code relating to pupil and student identification cards. Update information they're asking to be printed on those identification cards. The committee voted to support House Bill 137.
So that's updated information on like the source hotline information, new 988 number, and also just updating that language. Right.
Exactly. Thank you. House Bill 138 is an act to amend Title 14 of the Delaware Code relating to teacher apprenticeships. This bill established a Delaware Educator Apprenticeship Program to be developed by the Department of Education. The committee took a support position for House Bill 138. PSBA will continue to support any bill that's going to help with recruiting and keeping and correcting the shortage of teachers that we have at the moment. House Bill 163 is an act to amend Title 14 on the Delaware Code relating to educator licensure and certification. This act authorizes the Department of Ed to issue an initial or continuing license to a junior reserve officer training corps, that's JROTC, instructor who has been certified by the U.S. Department of Defense. The committee took a support position on House Bill 163. The next bill is 167. This bill relates to school resource officer funding. This act established school resource officer units to fund school resources officers in all Delaware public schools. Specifically, this act funds at least one school resource officer in each school in a district and each charter school, regardless of the enrollment, and provides for an additional school resource officer for schools with over 1,000 students. The committee took a support position for House Bill 167, provided there is an amendment to expand to constables. The legislative committee did not prefer the way it was written, where they just said resource officers. The legislative committee preferred that it had constables mentioned in that. House Bill 169 is an act that relates to school construction. This bill requires the Secretary of Education to publish and deliver to the General Assembly a report detailing requests for certificates of necessity that are not included in the proposed capital budget, and the reasons for the rejection and a ranking of the rejected projects by need. The report is also required to include a breakdown of the current and previous 5 years of state funding committed through the certificate of necessity process, as well as a report on which priority level, that is 1, 2, or 3, all approved and rejected applications are given. The committee voted to support House Bill 169. Then there was another bill that we discussed, but it wasn't numbered yet, that was brought up in the House regarding financial literacy. The SBA legislative committee does not typically consider bills that have not been introduced. However, given the subject of the bill and the involvement that Dr. John Marinucci has had in the bill to date, it was considered for position. A position of opposition was taken by the committee with clear understanding that Dr. Marinucci will work with the bill sponsor and recommend a study/review of the current financial literacy standards for potential strengthening, and then an outreach campaign to students to encourage them to avail themselves to the courses offered. What they are trying to do here in this bill is to have another course added to the curriculum of high schools, a half credit course. And the legislative committee saw that this would create scheduling problems. Plus, there's a lot of things that are in there that we think that some of these things are already being taught in other courses. So that's why we're asking for the look at the standards of other courses and see where some of these things are taught, instead of having a separate course added to the number of credits that a high school student has to get.
And there is currently a bipartisan coalition working on that bill.
Any questions? Then the committee moved, still on this meeting, to the Senate bills, but there were no new Senate bills to be considered. And then we moved to old business, very briefly here. It was reported briefly that the 3% and 6% salary increases recommended for education employees in the governor's recommended budget remains in the budget after the JFC markup. The language has changed from, quote, classroom teachers to non-administrative employees paid off of the 1305 salary schedule. Then we had an update on the legislative committee on issues of major capital market pressure funding. It was reported the need for local funding match relief is significant and dramatic. However, there also exists precedent for regarding to local match. It does not look as though there will be any relief provided. Sorry to say. That's under new business, because of the current SBA Legislative Committee Chair was not reelected in the May board election. Nominations were being received for the chair position. Mr. Matt Booker from Milford was placed in nomination. And at that meeting, there were no other nominations brought to the Legislative Committee at that time. And then also under new business, a recent request by legislators to school districts to modify their websites to include additional information about school board candidates and the respective terms was brought up for discussion. Dr. Marinucci again provided some background information to board members that explain the reason for the legislation request. Again, that particular request, it can be left up strictly to the local districts is what we put on our website. So we're not pushing for any support for that. The meeting was adjourned at 7:48. The next meeting for legislative committee is scheduled for October the 4th, 2023. The next meeting that I attended since the last board meeting was the Board of Directors meeting on June the 7th of 2023. This meeting started with the adoption of the agenda and approval of the previous minutes. Then we moved to the treasurer's report. And the reports for May of 2023 indicated that the anticipated revenue and expenditures were in line with budgeted expectations. It was also reported that the majority of significant Jinx expenses were already in, and we would be ending the fiscal year with a reasonable balance. Treasurer's report was approved. Then we moved to committee reports. The executive director reported to the board and was discussed briefly. And then the legislative committee meeting minutes were presented to the board and were discussed, and several of the bills were rediscussed again as far as how the legislative committee came up with their position on those bills, but then the minutes were approved by the board of directors. According to our bylaws, the board of directors has to approve the legislative committee minutes. And then we moved to old business, and it was reported in old business that the DSBA dues bills have been sent out in May, and several districts have remitted their dues already. And then we had election of DSBA officers, and the slate of officers for consideration that night was Ralph Ackerman from Brandywine as president, Janice Hanwell from Cape Henlopen, first vice president, Marcel Hayes, Sussex Tech, second vice president, Jessica Morelli, Cecil Rodney for treasurer, Matt Bucher, Milford for legislative committee chair. The slate of officers was approved unanimously. Under new business, it was reported that DSBA reorganization letters will be sent out soon. It was also approved by voice vote to authorize Dr. Marinucci to assure complete and submission of DSBA IRS Form 990 tax exempt tax return over the summer. And then the third item in new business, President Ackerman reported to the Board of Directors a recommendation from the DSBA Executive Leadership Team for the replacement of retiring Dr. John Marinucci. And the leadership team appointed myself as the new DSBA Executive Director. And thank you.
See that they are paying attention.
It's getting close to over. I'm sorry for maybe being so long-winded, but there's a lot of good things that happen here with this organization. So, and of course, that was discussed briefly and regularly moved, second, and passed. And the transition between myself and retiring Dr. Marinucci has already started. I've been going all of last week and all of this week so far to his office in Dover. Just to give you a little bit of brief history about DSBA. We used to have an office on the third floor in Dover before John took, we hired John. And then to cut some costs, we did away with that. And this requirement now for whoever's the executive director to have their office in their house. And that's what we would work out. So John works out off of his farm in an office that he has. I will be working out of an office at my house on 2700 Ellsmill Ridge. So, all right, the last item on the new business, it was reported to the Board of Directors' attention to the proposal by the DMI Group to redesign the DSBA website and provide ongoing maintenance services. After some discussion, it was approved to engage DMI Group for the web design services. And that is left up to Dr. Marinucci and myself. We had already started working on that. Other business, just want to mention, new members. Don't forget the board member boot camp is coming up July the 8th. And DSBA annual meeting and picnic is still going to be at John's ranch and out of Harrington, and that's on Saturday, August the 5th. The meeting adjourned at 7:55. And that's all I have in board communications. Anybody have any questions? Item 604, moving on to reports. A review of goals and key priorities, behavioral health and emergency response. And I will turn that over to Mr. Zoll.
So good evening, everybody. So going through my two kind of goals and priorities that I'm kind of in charge of here for the district. Built the coordinated behavioral health system, and update and implement an emergency response system. And I'll go through each one of those individually. So the first one, behavioral health system, just going over some statistics. Can you go to that next slide? This past school year, we had over 200 take care Delaware notices for our children, which means they had an event that took place that required outside agency support, like either the Seaford Police Department or DFS. We had over 200 students who were or became classified as homeless. We also had 300 students who missed 15 or more days of school unexcused, which obviously many times relates back to mental and behavioral health. So many of these show a need from our community for increased behavioral health services, which is why this was and will continue to be a priority area for me as we work through next school year. This year, I won't read that whole list to you, but I do want to highlight two of the big ones for me. Being able to hire 2 social workers at elementary school at that level. We're able to get students to doctor appointments and get doctor appointments set up for them. We're able to set up counseling outside of school, assist families with family court issues, and even help transport students to school who are on safety plans through DFS. So our social workers were huge in that area. Another thing that we want to highlight, working with a lot of our outside agencies, we were able to provide group and one-on-one counseling to over 150 students through those outside contracts. And if you have not had a chance, make sure you get to Fred Douglas at some point this summer. or before next September, I think when it opens. The Fred Douglass School-Based Health Center, while the actual health center is not open, they have started seeing students. And so we're looking to expand that as we go into next year as well. So for next year, our goal next year is obviously to expand and make sure, next slide, make sure we're working towards creating a community-wide system for our families. We are going to try to partner with Children and Families First to better assist our families outside of school. Going to utilize PD for supports for our teachers through capturing kids' hearts to help improve student connectedness with our teachers. And we're going to use state partnerships to push as many resources to our community as we can. We applied for 2 grants. We're waiting on word for them to get them next year to help bring some outside support standing for mental and behavioral health system. And in terms of the emergency response system, for emergency response systems, we have gone over safety and security a few times at past board meetings, but I do want to highlight we had 100% compliance with DEMA for our safety plans, for our drills, and our communication systems. We have sent people, including myself, to various trainings such as reunification, Alice active shooter training, and event planning that help us look at events and make sure we are keeping both our school students, teachers, and our community safe. And we've also applied for a school violence protection grant. Are working closely with buildings and grounds in the city of Seaford, look at an access road to Fred Douglass, better solidify the safety of the playground and cafeteria. Any questions about those 2 priority areas?
I have not.
Okay.
All right, 6.05. Review of goals and key priorities, recruitment and retention. I'll turn that over to Mr. Damage.
Thanks, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So our goal, and I'm not going to read to you, you know them, and then what we're looking to do is our key priority. So you put them next. Recruiting. When I came into this position, I got hired. You hired me at the December 19 board meeting, and I got to go to all 2 recruiting fairs before COVID hit, and kind of changed how we did this. And for the last couple of years, we were a lot more virtual than we were in person. This year kind of finally changed. We were able to go back out on the road and get to some recruiting fairs. There were still some that have kept it virtual. So we're doing a combination of both. But the college fairs have become a little more challenging for us. For years, we've gone into Pennsylvania, Maryland, New Jersey, places around us because they have a surplus of teachers, and we could get them to come to Delaware. That's becoming a lot more difficult because all those states need all the folks that they're training and they're hiring. So we've had to come up with some different ways to get our name out there. We do some different things, do some panels. So a university might call and say, hey, would you be willing to sit on a panel and talk about interview tips or something along those lines? Anytime I get the opportunity to do that, I do. Sometimes in person, sometimes Zoom into classes. I think sometimes, some of the folks in some of the career centers might have my email go to a different file when it comes through because I email them so much. Like, hey, what do you have out there? When can I come up and just set up? Lots of them are good about giving me a room that I can go in and interview, and they'll say, hey, we've got 3 candidates. When can you get up here? And we do those types of things. In fact, over spring break this year, I was down at Townsend, at the University of Maryland, and it was just set up outside of the career center to talk to students as they came by and talk to some education folks. And one of the unique things was that week they were also doing tours of potential students coming there. So I started asking them if they were going to educate. We're going to come to Townsend for education, and started handing secret stuff, 4 years early. So we tried. One of the things that we really worked on too is the partnerships we have with our universities. We have residents this year from Wilmington. Although it's year 2 is the first year we've actually had residents, because the first year is a plan year. We started off with 6.5, actually started with us with 6, never really kind of got to us. And we ended up having 4 that finished out. All 4 of them were offered employment with the Seaford School District. And pending approval later tonight of the personnel agenda, 3 of the 4 will be teachers with us next year. So the program is working. We have 3 next year that are coming to us from Del Tech, and I have an update on that Wilmington one. it looks like we're gonna have at least one resident coming to us. We're working on where their placement's gonna be. It's a little bit of a different placement. So we're working on that. We also had 2 student teachers that work for us both, and we interviewed them early. One is coming to stay with us. One was offered employment with us, but is taking employment elsewhere, which is closer to home. But we've also done some work on some pipelines. We've been part of 2 different pipelines. One has been an admin pipeline. So we're always trying to build our bench, working around leadership positions. And so part of that was launching a survey district-wide. And it was twofold. One went out to all teachers, asking them, one, are you interested in becoming an administrator? But then also, what other leadership opportunities are you interested in? So it got us thinking about what else we could have people do besides admin as we find out what people's interests are. We're working in conjunction with that admin survey with putting together our own cohort here with Wilmington University, where we would actually be the instructors for that. And it looks like Dr. Nicholas is going to dust off his teaching skills here in the fall and lead the first couple classes of that cohort. The other cohort we've been a part of is a diversity cohort, Delaware Regional Diversity Lab, and it's being run by AIR, who's contracted by the Department of Ed. And we've gone to 2 in-person sessions and a couple of Zoom sessions where we're working on just the practice of hiring teachers and administrators of color, and just going through an action plan of what that can look like and what are some different things other places do. And the only problem I would say with it is we get into some really great discussions that end us not actually getting to where we need to get to sometimes, but it's real good. And they have a person from the AIR that actually is working with us kind of directly in shaping that plan. We're also working with the Grow Your Own. It's a grant from the department. And we're partnering with Wilmington on that, where if a paraprofessional has an associate's or 60 credits, we can work on it in a 2-year time frame of getting them. They would do a resident. The first year they would do some hours and stuff, but the second year they would do a residency with us, and they would be a certified teacher at the end of that program. And the cost to that para is 0. They pay for everything. They pay for the praxis. And so we're working on that with Wilmington. Then they just actually are launching the second part of this. That was round 1 and round 2, and they opened it up to universities outside of the state of Delaware. We've had a couple of folks that have emailed, and we're having some conversations that we're setting up there in regards to who else we could possibly partner with. And this will sound a little bit odd, but Jackson State University in Mississippi has wanted to reach out to see if we could partner with them. And they said folks would, be able to do it virtually through them. So some opportunity there. Dr. Israel and I are working with Wilmington University in some cohorts and are along the line of our folks that are already teaching, getting other certifications. And that includes the early childhood, exceptional child autism and special ed K-12. And maybe looking at starting that in January of 24 would be the first cohort that would go through there. Talk about growing around our teacher academy. We're really working with those students, and the nice thing about the teacher academy is the students take the parapro as kind of the culminating activity of the teacher academy. So when they leave the classroom and graduate with us, they're able to be a paraprofessional. In fact, at the career fair last week, we had one of our own who has done that come and talk about applying to be a para already. So some of that's working. And the NEST program, which we've done, this will be year 2 this year. It's going to be under construction a little bit more next year and kind of doing some things, because the mentoring program is changing at the state level for 24-25, and we're going to tie the NEST into that to kind of work and try to streamline some stuff that works best for us on that end. So that's a little bit of what we have going on. We really had to be creative and hustle, and we're sending people a lot of places. It's not just myself going out. We have other folks that have gone. Mr. Zuhl's gone to several of them. Some of our principals will go out and really trying to find, some of our best recruiters are our own teachers and employees who say, hey, this is a great place to work. And I don't know, we had several people at the career fair tell us, oh, so, somebody who works here at the Nest telling us it's cover everything on that end. So I don't know if there's any questions or not.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 7, which is the agenda action items. The first one, 7.01, is school choice. Recommended action is to approve school choice applications 2023-24-39 through 2023-24-47, and to deny school choice application 2023-24-48 and 2023-24-49 as presented.
This is Doug Benson. I make a motion that we approve school choice applications 2023-24-39 through 2023-24-47. And to deny school choice application 2023-24-48 and 2023-24-49 is presented.
Marcus, I second.
Been moved and seconded to approve school choice applications 2023-24-39 through 2023-24-47, and to deny school choice applications 2023-24-48 and 2023-24-49 as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. 7.02, facilities request, and I noticed there we do not have any facilities requests to consider tonight. We're moving on. 7.03 is collective bargaining agreement, Seaford Board of Education and Seaford Custodians Association, 7123-63026. And I will turn that over to Mr. Cannon.
Thank you, sir.
Uh-huh.
I had the privilege this year of negotiating 3 contracts. I don't know if that was good planning or bad planning on my part, and they all came due, but we were able to negotiate all 3 of the contracts, and we're here tonight for all of them. But the first one is the custodian contract, and it might have been record time, because I think we got everything done in about a 2-hour time frame. Everybody came in, and that to me just shows a sign of a good contract and a good working relationship between everyone. So that. Do you want to talk about all 3, or I know there's separate items?
Can we just start and do one at a
Yeah,
time,
yes, sir.
please?
Yes, sir. You're in charge, sir.
So once we pass this, then they'll come up and we'll
Yes, sir.
sign the document.
Yes, sir.
Okay, appreciate it. Recommended action is to approve the collective bargaining agreement, Seaford Board of Education and the Seaford Custodians Association, 7123-603026 as presented.
Marcus, I move to approve the collective bargaining agreement, Seaford Board of Education and Seaford Custodian Association, 7123 through 63026 as presented.
Tim Hopkins, I second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the collective bargaining agreement, Seaford Board of Education and the Seaford Custodians Association, 7123 through 63026 as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Wow. So. Ms. Lake, the president of SEA, here to sign as well. Bring your name, Ms. Kim.
Thank you, sir.
Good work.
All right, 7.04 is collective bargaining agreement, Seaford Board of Education and the Seaford Support Staff Association, 7123 through 63026.
Once again, negotiated, the contract I should have mentioned with the custodian contract, it is for a 3-year time frame, as is the paraprofessional and support staff association. And once again, I don't know, not as fast as the custodians, but still a very good time. We did it in less than a half day. Both sides came in and same thing. I think everybody is once again showed a sign of a good contract and a good working relationship within the time that we were able to get it done. And it is there for your approval.
All right, recommended action is to approve the collective bargaining agreement, Seaford Board of Education and the Seaford Support Staff Association, 7/1/23 through 6/30/26 is presented.
As a proud member of this organization, I move to approve the collective bargaining agreement for the Seaford Board of Education and the Seaford Support Staff Association for the dates 7/1/23 through 6/30/26 as presented.
Tim Hopkins, I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the collective bargaining agreement, Seaford Board of Education and the Seaford Support Staff Association, 7/1/23 through 6/30/26 as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
We're ready to begin. Blake is the president and Melly Kimler is the vice president with the Support Staff Association. There you go. And we're on to that for the next one. Thank you, guys.
There you go.
Seven oh five, collective bargaining agreement, Seaford Board of Education and the Seaford Education Association, 7/1/23 -6/30/26. Recommended action is to approve the collective bargaining agreement, Seaford Board of Education and the Seaford Education Association, 7/1/23 through 6/30/26 as presented.
Marcus, I move to approve the collective bargaining agreement, Seaford Board of Education and the Seaford Education Association, 7/1/23 through 6/30/26 as presented.
Tim Hopkins. Yeah.
Jeff Benson, I second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the collective bargaining agreement, Seaford Board of Education and the Seaford Education Association, 7/1/23 through 6/30/26 is presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
One last time.
And the 7.06 policy ABC tobacco free schools. Recommended action to approve the second reading of policy ABC tobacco free schools as presented.
This is Kim Hopkins. I move that we approve the second reading of policy ABC tobacco-free school as presented.
Jeff Benson, I second.
We move the second to approve the second reading of policy ABC, tobacco-free schools as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Mr. Zoll, I'm sorry, did you have anything else to add to that? I just took we talked about it the last time, so. Same thing for policy 707 is policy JICG, tobacco use by students. Recommended action is to approve the second reading of policy JICG, tobacco use by students as presented.
This is Jeff Benson. I move that we approve the policy JICG, tobacco use by students as presented.
Marcus, I second.
Then moved and seconded to approve the second reading of policy JICG, tobacco use by students as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. 708 is policy JICH, drug and alcohol use by students. Recommended action is to approve the second reading of policy JICH, drug and alcohol use by students as presented.
Kim Hopkins, I move that we approve the second reading of policy JICH, drug and alcohol use by students as presented.
Marcus, I second.
Moved and seconded to approve the second reading of policy JICH, drug and alcohol use by students as presented. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. 7.09, and she already noted what's next. Opportunity fund waiver. I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Brennan.
Good evening. We are requesting consideration of a waiver for the 98% of the total allocation of Seaford School District's opportunity funds. What this will allow is flexibility in hiring staff across the district or possibly even district-wide positions. And we have it in the current year. This is a continuation.
Any questions? Recommended action. Thank you, Mrs. Brennan. Recommended action is to approve the opportunity fund waiver as presented.
Marcus, I move to approve the opportunity fund waiver as presented.
Jeff Benson, I second.
Then moving the second to approve the opportunity fund waiver as presented. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. 7.10 is anonymous donation, and the floor is for Mr. Brennan.
Thank you. In accordance with regulation KCDR, we are currently working with the donor with West Elementary, and this will have a cash value in excess of $10,000, which requires board approval. As of right now, the donations include a pantry with kid-friendly foods, personal hygiene items, and clothing, but we are also exploring some other opportunities with this donor.
Recommended action is to approve the anonymous donation as presented.
Jeff Benson, I make a motion that we approve the anonymous donation as presented.
Kim Hopkins, I second.
Then moved and second to approve the anonymous donation as presented. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to 7.11 is fiscal year 2024 tax rates. Mrs. Brennan again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Seaford's assessed property value as of June 1st increased to $225.75917 million, which is an increase of approximately $3.5 million, or 1.6%. So what you see before you is the proposed tax rates. All are being held constant -3. So I'd like to talk about those. One is debt service. So that is decreasing because we are dropping off bonds 185 and 187. And also there's a decrease in match tax MCIs. And that is a number that is provided to us by the Department of Education. So we are required to match less, therefore we are able to decrease that number. The one item that is increasing is our tuition. Part of this is, we've now come out of COVID. For a while there, we were sitting on like a little bit of a surplus. Now we are identifying students. The cost per each enrolled student has increased, and therefore we are needing to increase to ensure that we're able to cover all of our existing expenditures. So in total, what this means is that we would be increasing by less than 1 penny per dollar of assessed value.
Very good.
But our base as a whole has went up by $3.5 million.
I have no question, Bob. Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Recommended action is to approve the fiscal year 2024 tax rates as presented.
Michael Schreiber, move to approve the fiscal year 2024 tax rates as presented.
Jackson, my second.
There's a second to approve the fiscal year 2024 tax rates as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. 7.12 is fiscal year 2024 preliminary budget. And again, Mrs. Brennan.
So you will have two documents in front of you. The first is the preliminary budget. The second is the preliminary operating budget. So this assumes our 98% guarantee of 264.6 Division I units. And also taking into account our assessed property value of $225.7 million. So this gives us anticipated revenue, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, of $13.22 million. Takes into account all of our voc ed units and everything else. It also takes into account our reduction plan. Based upon our units this year, we went from a reduction plan of $597,000 to $619,000. So our reduction plan is increasing as our units are increasing. If you go to the second sheet, thank you very much. So what this includes is that every single school enrollment has now been accounted for in terms of their per pupil expenditure. So for the majority, this is increasing their school budget based upon their June enrolled amount. We are also adding back in a local budget of $50,000 for instruction. For the past couple of years, we've been utilizing ESSER funds for this, and really by the time next year, 1 year from now rolls around, we will have to restore the entire budget for instruction. We are also increasing athletics by about $20,000. This is twofold. Number one is we have the official rates that are going up, but also the cost of transportation has been increasing. We also have a couple of little minor changes. One of them is a reduction in student services. We are eliminating the paper production of calendars, and we are meeting the requirements elsewhere in a more cost-saving method. And then we also are projecting right now to set aside $540,000 for choice and charter.
Questions? Recommended action is to approve the fiscal year 2024 preliminary budget as presented.
Jackson, I make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2024 preliminary budget as presented.
Kim Hopkins, a second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the fiscal year 2024 preliminary budget as presented. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. 7.13 is fiscal year 2024 salary schedule. Again, Mrs. Britton.
So what I'm going to be sharing is just reflects the local share, not the state share of the salary schedules. It also does not include any of the negotiated groups that were just signed off on. So the first one we have is the cafeteria worker schedule. This will be a 1% increase for the local portion of their salaries. Then we have the cafeteria managers. And that includes the same 1% increase on the local portion of their salaries as well. The third group is the chief's maintenance skilled craftsman salary schedule. So this has dollar value increase based upon the type of classification. So a chief custodian 5 will increase by $450, a chief custodian 6 and chief custodian 6 plus by $300, maintenance mechanic and skilled craftsman by $150 on just the local portion. The next salary schedule that we'll be going over is the clerk and secretary. And this also has a 1% increase on the local portion of salaries. We are introducing and now have a constable pay scale, and this will also have a 1% increase on the local portion of their salaries, reflecting about 30% of their total salary. And then the final pay scale we have is the registered dietitian, and this is also a 1% increase on the equivalent of the local portion of their salaries, which reflects about 30%. And finally, we have technology, which is a 1% increase on the local portion.
Thank you. Recommended action is to approve the fiscal year 2024 salary schedules as presented.
This is Kim Hopkins. I move to approve the fiscal year 2024 salary schedule presented.
Second.
Move to second to approve the fiscal year 2024 salary schedules as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Then 7.14 is financial report. Mr. Brennan.
This is my last one. So the final 4 documents that I'll be going over with you guys tonight. First is the operating unit expenses through the end of May. It reflects 91.67% of the way through the fiscal year. We've encumbered or expended an additional $623,000 since we last met. Or this reflects 75.3% of all funds encumbered or expended. The other part to keep in mind, in June, we do have the final 3-pay month. This was a atypical year with three pay months during the course of a year. The final pay is actually June 30th, so it just squeezed in there, really at the end. But otherwise, we are in, tremendous shape across the board. The only one area where there is a negative is actually within the performing arts high school budget, but overall, the high school budget as a whole is positive. So then more positive news is our tax collection. So in the month of June, we collected $78,000 approximately for taxes. We also received $123,852 for the second payment of our disabled veterans and also our senior property tax relief. That puts our total tax collection at 105.72 or 27%. So we exceeded the amount we were anticipated to bring in by about $300,000. So that is very, very positive. Then the next document I would like to share with you is the set aside. So since we started the year, July 2022, we have not encumbered or expended any of these funds. What you see before you, it will actually move an additional $800,000 into our set aside to help us in future years. So this includes adding $250,000 for budget or for buildings, $150,000 for technology, $50,000 for athletics, and $350,000 for security. The other part of this, which is not reflected on this sheet, is that I am requesting that we move $1 million from our local account, our 9,800 account, to our budget reserve. Our budget reserve right now has $2.5 million in it, and I would ask that we move $1 million to increase it to 3.5.
Is there a reason for the need of the increase?
Is there a reason for what?
The need of the increase to other $1 million in the other reserve?
So what, how are we able to do that? Is that?
No, I know that we moved it. I'm asking, what is the the reason.
To move it.
Yes.
So, number one is that will demonstrate our stronger financial position in all the financial position reports and on all of the budgetary documentation that we share with DOE and publicly. Because now our budget reserve would go from 2.5 to $3.5 million. The other part that's important to keep in mind is that you're required to keep a minimum amount in terms of local salaries set aside. Given the fact that our salaries are increasing both on the local side and the state side, that will provide us additional support and kind of documentation of the strength of our financial position. So, our salaries are going up, so we also should kind of keep pace with that in terms of our budget reserve.
Makes sense.
So that will be done also and reflected by the end of this fiscal year before July 1st. And then when I come forward in August with the financial position report, you will see these numbers have been changed at that point.
Okay.
And then the final document is the monthly revenue report. So there was an increase of about $2.6 million in terms of state funds. The majority of this was formula salaries, but also we received some additional funds in terms of state transportation and dual enrollment. In terms of local funds, there was an increase of about $542,000. Majority of that went to cafeteria funds. Also, it was spread across current expense, debt service, and match taxes. And then finally, we received an additional $85,000 in terms of federal funds. And the majority of that was actually, we were awarded a nutrition cafeteria equipment grant. And then there were a couple of little other increases in federal funds.
Question? Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Recommended action is to approve the monthly financial reports as presented.
This is the motion I move that we approve the monthly financial reports as presented.
Definitely a second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the monthly financial reports as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Long range agenda. Only 2 items. We might need to put that on the screen. I'm reading, I'll read this. 7/4 is Independence Day. Schools will be closed. And July the 10th is the next board meeting here for reorganization. That's at 6 p.m. That's July 10th of 2023. Next item, we need now to a motion to move into executive session for personnel matters, legal updates, and student matters.
This has come out from the move that we enter into executive session for personnel matters, legal updates, and student matters.
Marcus, try that second.
Been moved and seconded to move into executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And the time is 7:17. I thank you all for coming to my.
Thank you. We're gonna do that. Come on.
No,